Whether you operate one forklift or thousands, one location or hundreds, the new My Toyota customer portal can help you optimize your operation and material handling equipment. This one-stop, free-to-use platform is designed to help you take control of your information and make smarter decisions, all at the touch of a button. Register and access your data today at my.toyotaforklift.com. That's my.toyotaforklift.com.
The New Warehouse Podcast, hosted by Kevin Lawton, is your source for insights and ideas from the distribution, transportation, and logistics industry. A new episode every Monday morning brings you the latest from industry experts and thought leaders. And now, here's Kevin.
Hi, and welcome to the New Warehouse Podcast. This is Kevin Lawton, and I am on site today at Vecna Robotics. I am here for a tour of their brand new facility in Waltham, Massachusetts. And you guys might remember Vecna Robotics from our ProMat series, where I spoke with David Clear, who's the VP of Business Development here at Vecna. He told us a little bit about what they had going on at ProMat, and they also mentioned the move that would be coming up into the new facility, and now we are here in the new facility, and I will say it looks very amazing, and I love that we are inside of the big green box that is here in the middle, which is, I think, kind of the Vecna signature color. So I'm back here today, and I'm going to talk to David again, David Clear, who's the VP of Business Development here at Vecna, and I'm going to talk with Josh Ornstein, who is the VP of Engineering here as well. So Josh and David, welcome to the show. How are you guys today?
Good. Very well. Thanks for having us.
Yes, definitely. Happy to have you guys, and then happy to be on site here too. I did take a little glimpse and saw the testing going on there. So they have a little mock warehouse set up here inside of a huge wall that is a warehouse mural, which for the New Warehouse Podcast, that's very attractive, right? So we're going to take a tour, and then we'll have some pictures and videos up on thenewwarehouse.com. But we're going to get into a little bit about what is Vecna. So Josh and David, why don't you tell us a little bit about Vecna as a company, and what is it you guys do for anybody that may have not heard of you?
So Vecna Robotics founded at the midpoint of last year, so we've just celebrated our first birthday. Mm-hmm. Vecna Robotics spun out of our previous parent company of Vecna Technologies.
Okay.
So we have been developing autonomous technology for almost 20 years at this point. We began to productize about 5 or 6 years back and have been working with various partners since then. And then spinning out into Vecna Robotics as of last year really gave us an opportunity to focus the company and grow the company with a specific focus into this market. So we make a range. We offer a range of different autonomous platforms.
Okay.
With different functionalities, different payloads. But at its core, what we have is really the most flexible navigation system, in the most flexible navigation system in the world. It can be applied to just about any vehicle. Okay. So our off-the-shelf offerings currently, in terms of our hardware, would be our Tugger platform, and then we have a pallet jack, which is capable of touch-free pallet pickup and drop-off. So there's obviously some pretty defined use cases with those platforms for our customers. But the technology then can expand into a whole host of different pieces of hardware and different applications as we continue to grow and expand. And then combined with that are various software offerings. We have a tool called Beacon, which is a monitoring and continuous learning tool, and then we have our pivotal fleet orchestration tool, which allows us to dynamically allocate and reallocate tasks and make sure that we get the best and most value out of the platforms that are on the ground. So really that software portion of our offering is where we can really differentiate ourselves and make sure that our customers get as much benefit as possible from the hardware.
Okay, great. And then for people that are wondering, so you guys are just providing the software portion, right, and the attachment to existing forklift models.
So for the bigger platforms like the pallet trucks and fork trucks, we're partnering with OEMs to do that integration into their platforms. For the smaller units, we actually will build the hardware ourselves as well.
Got it. Great. So now, how did, I guess, the idea of robotics for Vecna Technologies, you mentioned that Vecna Technologies spun off into Vecna Robotics, so how did, I guess, the idea come up of let's get into robotics now?
So from about 2002-3, slightly before my time.
Okay.
To be fair, Josh was here around then.
Right.
There was a core R&D focus within the robotics space. So there was a division within Vecna Technologies, which was focused on research and development around robotics and automation. So we worked with a lot of various government agencies, notably DARPA, NSF, various groups under the DoD banner, and the basis of the technology evolved from those projects. So one of the probably most well-known projects that we worked on in that period of time was the BEAR, the Battlefield Extraction Assist Robot, which was a humanoid robot designed to go into the battlefield and extract injured soldiers.
Oh, okay.
And that project was really ran from about 2003 to 2007-8. But much of the technology that was developed for the BEAR is what transferred over into our product offerings today.
Interesting.
So there has been a huge amount of time and effort and investment, and by leveraging a lot of these types of projects and partnerships with both public and private entities, we invested over $60 million into the technology. Before there was a push to actually commercialize, which really gave us an opportunity to have a very robust and tested core offering before we pushed it out to the market. It also allowed us to make a lot of our mistakes in private. So, as our founder and CEO Daniel Theobald often comments, robotics is hard.
Yeah.
So that approach gave us a good opportunity for the engineering team, and Josh was involved in a lot of these, to go down blind alleys and make assumptions and test them and get things wrong and iterate and improve. So when we launched then our product offering, it was at a stage where we felt both technology as a whole was ready. We felt our technology was very robust, and equally the market was also reaching a point where it was ready for automation.
Okay, great, definitely. So I do have a question. So you go from the BEAR, right? So what does that look like? Is that actually like a vehicle that would go in and transport?
It was well, there's different iterations of it, but the latest one was a treaded kind of leg structure.
Okay, all right.
With the torso and arms. So it was like David said, a humanoid robot.
Yeah.
But the goal was to be able to do logistics in the battlefield. So moving wounded soldiers, carrying heavy stuff, but being able to get around the same terrain that a human has to get around.
Okay, I see. So I see now how it transformed into, I guess, a forklift, right?
Yeah,
got it.
Aspects of that. Yes.
Yeah. And logistics, obviously, logistics has its roots so much in the military, so it makes sense, definitely. Yeah. All right. So what, when you, I guess, officially spun off and went into robotics, what would you say, I guess, was the biggest barrier of entry to getting customers to accept that robotics is coming? Because for a long time, I guess there was a lot of fear of robotics in a way. Maybe, robotics is going to take over our lives. Robotics is going to do everything for us, and everybody's going to lose their job. How did you get people to accept that and, I guess, kind of work with you to start to bring these into operations?
I mean, from my viewpoint, it's been kind of both sides. There's a need that's been driving on the industry side that, hey, there's not enough people to do this work, and this type of work isn't necessarily fulfilling to humans.
Yes,
is one
definitely.
side of it. On the other side, there's this, like you said, apprehension. Is it safe? Is it going to meet our needs, kind of thing? So it definitely has been, to date, working with customers to help prove to them that the technology is ready and capable.
Yeah.
And for some customers, that has been going through pilots, going through proof of concepts with them before they're ready to do a bigger rollout. And that's just, I always view robotics today is where personal computing was in the late 70s, early 80s, where people were apprehensive. Oh, if I'm going to use this, what does that mean? Who's going to have access to my information, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, definitely.
And so it's just getting that comfort. And computers are a commodity today. Robots are going to be a commodity in the future.
Definitely, I think already becoming in a way. So,
yeah.
So why don't you talk a little bit about, you said something about safety, so why don't you talk a little bit about how you guys address safety concerns around people working around robots?
So safety is our number one concern, more so than the robots doing their jobs, right? So whenever we talk about it, it's always our fifth slide in our presentation, but it's always safety first.
Yeah.
And that's because we have to introduce our company first. But safety is at the core of how we designed our technology. We wanted to make sure that it wasn't just, hey, we're doing what the industry says we have to do.
Yeah.
We go above and beyond that. So we have 3 different levels of safety in our system to kind of have redundancy, as well as kind of, the high-level system can be a lot smarter about how it deals with the world and safety, but the high-level system could be buggy and could have flaws in it. And then there's the mid-level system, which basically is our lower-level software that is running on our embedded systems that has a lot less chances of going wrong because there's a lot of code running there. And it has certain aspects of ensuring that the system is doing things in a safe manner. So it's not running off at a speed that we don't expect, or that it's doing certain things that part of the system can control. And then we have a dedicated third-party performance level D safety system, which is kind of industry standard. That is the last line of defense. But our system is designed such that hopefully never gets triggered. We've always done what we need to do before that gets triggered, but it's there to basically be the safety net.
Okay, great.
So we've been working. Sorry, Kevin. We've been working with a number of external providers on this and safety assessment, conducting various safety assessments, and the feedback we get from those partners, as well as our customers, is that we have the most robust safety system, and there is always that kind of push and pull of the practicalities. Safety has to be the overall concern. The unit still has to be able to function and operate in that mixed environment. And that's been the bedrock from day one, even back using with the Bear project. That was a unit that would have to work alongside people. So we've been designing collaborative robots for 15 years, and aiming to get that balance between the safety and the practical application as well.
Definitely. And to touch on, I guess, your machines and systems. So I remember you mentioned at ProMat, in terms of it being collaborative, you can work alongside it as the vehicle is autonomous, but you can also switch it to, right, if that person that's working alongside needs to jump on for whatever reason, do something out of the ordinary, correct?
Yeah, and
we'll be back after a quick break.
You hear a lot about supply chains these days, because if the past couple years have taught us anything, it's that an efficient, well-managed supply chain is absolutely critical to keeping businesses successful and consumers happy. I'm Will Haywood, and I host a podcast called All Business, No Boundaries, where we talk about supply chains, how they work, what happens when they don't, and the innovations that are redefining what's possible in the world of logistics. Join me for insightful interviews with thought leaders and industry experts. We discuss how optimizing supply chains can break down the barriers that are holding businesses back. That's All Business, No Boundaries by DHL Supply Chain. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Again, part of this is just overall pragmatism, the use cases that our customers have. Certainly at an ops level, most in just about every environment, no one really cares that it's a robot. They care that it works. They care that I can meet my throughput. And so there's certain use cases that may require some kind of a manual touch point. So there is a switch that says auto and manual. So with literally the flick of a switch, you can convert the vehicle. You can move it either into manual or autonomous functionality. And again, that is part of, as I said, that general pragmatic approach of completing use cases that may have a hybrid requirement of certain manual touches and certain autonomous touches, and equally in terms of issue resolution that our customers are able to work with the units very freely, and if there's any challenges along the way, that it can be resolved or moved or any of those various things. So with units being deployed, in very far-flung places, currently throughout North America and in the future, hopefully the world, there has to be pragmatic approaches as to how issues can be resolved. And so a lot of the systems that we've put in place, from our Beacon tool, which monitors, from the partnerships we've put in place for support, we've partnered with Ricoh as well as Unicarriers recently. Ricoh have 4,000 techs in the US and I think 11,000 worldwide. That's more than we have. So that allows them to resolve. In the event of our customers having issues, we can have people on site very quickly. And much of the work we put in place is with that operational focus in mind. Very quickly, our customers move past the concept of robots are cool or robots are sexy to this is a piece of equipment that I'm dependent on.
Let's put it
that
to work.
needs to get certain things done. Let's put it to work and let's make sure we have those fallbacks as we need them.
Okay, great, definitely. So why don't you tell us a little bit about this new facility? I know we talked about it at ProMat that it was coming up, and now we're here, and I'm sure you guys are excited about it. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the new facility and kind of what it means and how it's going to help you guys further develop Vecna into a prominent robotics company?
So from a practical perspective, we are absolutely delighted to be here. It's a fantastic site, purpose built for us. We're in Waltham, Massachusetts, which is we're about 5 miles west of where we had been in Cambridge. We had 3 buildings in a campus in Cambridge, but we also had another building in Woburn, about 10 miles north of us, and another building a further 10 miles north of that. So the practicalities of that started to become challenging at a certain point. So we've now been able to pull everyone under the one roof, and that makes a lot of just day-to-day work and interactions much more convenient. We've put our demo space in here, which you referenced earlier, and probably get a few pictures of soon.
Oh, yeah.
And that is much more representative of the types of use cases and environments that our technology would work in. So even simple things like showing customers the units in an environment that is comparable to their own, that makes everything easier. From a technical perspective, I think Josh and his team probably have a lot of benefits as well, because the site here is about 80,000 square feet, which is more space than we've had in the past. And given the nature of the products we have, the feedback from the team so far has been that there's a lot of benefits of just having that space to work and develop in.
Yeah. So we have a playground basically that we can run our robots around.
Nice.
You know, as David said, I started in the company in 2006, where we're a very smaller company. Bear was our first project. It had a little bit of a playground, but as the company grew, its playground got smaller and smaller and smaller. When we moved over to these platforms, that space was not even big enough to really run them around. So that's why we got spaces out further, but now that meant that the engineering team or demos had to be transported and moved to different places to be able to actually do work. Now we have that all downstairs right next to where the teams are working. If there's an issue, people can go and see it right away. It's not maybe tomorrow I can make it out there to go check it out.
Go to the other site,
Yeah, so it's a lot more flexible for how we can move and how we can operate as a team.
Okay, great. Yeah, I mean, the facility looks great. Looking forward very much to my tour and seeing some more demos as well. So you guys are based in Waltham, Massachusetts. So, this past year, I mean, there's been a ton of investment in robotics companies based out of Massachusetts. So I guess why do you think Massachusetts is becoming such a hub for these robotics companies, and how do you think the investment overall is helping to drive the technology further and also make, I guess, robotics more of an accepted thing overall in the operations world?
So, I mean, Massachusetts has become a hub for a number of reasons, all of which I don't know the answer to. But one big one is that there's a lot of tech colleges that are here.
Right.
So you have a lot of people coming out of college with this type of expertise and this interest, and they're not necessarily looking to move across the world or across country. So a lot of companies have come out of those industries or out of those schools. So our founders were MIT graduates, and so they set up Vecna Technologies here because there was a pool of people and great talent to pull from. And I think that's one of the big things. There's other benefits, I think, as well in the Massachusetts area, but David can speak to those.
Yeah, so clearly the talent is probably one of the prime driving factors, and then as a number of companies set up and got established, you have the agglomeration benefits of being able to share resources between the various companies, and people spin out of companies. We've seen a lot of new companies that have opened in recent years who are small teams that have departed maybe one of the existing companies. They have their own idea and concept. So that, in terms of having the right people in the right place, is one help. And then as the industry gets more of a reputation, what we often have is a lot of our customers come through and they're effectively doing tours around all of the various different robotics companies in the region, and it gives them more awareness of the technologies that are available, more confidence in the people in the groups and the teams that are there, which obviously leads to investment. And so equally we collectively, as the robotics industry in the area, there is a lot of VC interest, which further reduces those barriers to either starting companies or scaling companies. And the positive feedback, which we've seen through many of the more established robotics companies in the area. Six River Systems, our neighbour here, they're in one of the buildings next door, and obviously they've had their acquisition recently. And one of the temporary spaces that we referenced earlier was in Wilmington, which is about 15 miles north of the city. If anyone knows Boston, they'll probably tell me I'm wrong on that, but let's go with 15 miles. And Locus were one neighbour, and Symbotic were another neighbour. So you see, and when we were in Cambridge, we had Soft Robotics behind us, and Right Hand Robotics are in Somerville, so they were only maybe 5 to 10 minutes from our office in Cambridge. So that ecosystem is fantastic, and there's a lot of information sharing and partnership as needed, which I think is probably going to be one of the next big things you see. And having people close to each other, that proximity really helps with a lot of that growth as well.
Okay, yeah, I was going to ask you if there's a kind of a collaborative atmosphere, and if you guys are kind of maybe driving each other to push your technology further.
I think there's a hugely collaborative atmosphere, actually. Daniel Theobald, our founder, is also the founder and president of Mass Robotics, and one of the core goals of Mass Robotics was to help expand and grow the robotics industry within the region. And there really is a view that a rising tide lifts all ships. We're as happy. Locus have had a lot of success in recent years. Six River have had a lot of success. We've had success, and that gives an overall confidence from the user end of the market as to the maturity of the technology. And if nothing else, if everyone else is doing it, maybe we should too. Yeah. And that makes the sales process easier and the sales cycle quicker. And customers are gaining a higher degree of knowledge and confidence in what they need and what the technology can do, and equally what it can't. And that's a big thing as well in terms of people understanding what they can do at this point. So that kind of interaction between the various companies is clear to see. When we had our HQ launch here a few weeks ago, we had people from Locus, from Six River, from Boston Dynamics, from Right Hand Robotics. We had people from everywhere. So there is no there's no animosity certainly between any of the groups. So it has felt like a very collaborative industry. To Josh's point earlier, it's like the personal computing of 30, 40 years ago. This industry will continue to grow and evolve in ways that probably many of us haven't predicted. And having those kind of tight communications, interactions with other people in the space helps everyone.
Great. Yeah, that's good to hear because, like you said, it develops the technology if everybody can kind of work together in a way and share ideas and stuff. So it's good to hear that there's no animosity and you guys aren't having robot wars or anything like that.
Well, this is our public face. Obviously, when the microphone's off, we're going to have...
Gotcha, okay. There's an underground robot battle ring or something.
Robot Fight Club. The first rule is...
Don't talk about Robot Fight Club. Right. So how about from the customer perspective, so people that maybe have been skeptical about robotics or are thinking about getting into robotics, what would you say, aside from the first point that we touched on, safety, which obviously is the biggest thing, what would you say they should be looking at in terms of what the robotic solution provides? What is that most important thing that's probably going to be prevalent now and prevalent through the future?
I think for anyone to, for any customer, for any end user to invest in something like this, they obviously have to have confidence that there will be a return on the investment.
Yes. Yeah.
So keeping that really as the core focus, which most of our customers do, helps focus the mind in terms of what you're actually trying to achieve.
Okay.
So what are the capabilities of the robot? What can we do with it? And there is that crawl, walk, run approach where some of our customers have gone through a proof of technology phase, just validating the basic functionality of the technology. Can it do the things that we need it to do? And we've done that a number of times, and it's been very successful. And we tend to bypass that now and run almost straight to proof of concept, which is what is the use case that we're going to tackle within our environment, and does it give us the benefit? And equally, what are the changes we need to make on our side? And that tends to be the biggest effort on both sides. Determining what are the changes that need to be made within a workflow to get the most benefit out of automation, because it is some kind of in any project there is some kind of a process shift. So the change management aspect is as important as the technology, and just having a clear understanding of what we need to do and a clear understanding of what their targeted gains are. And once I think there's a pretty solid base for that as we move into a project, success becomes much easier to attain, and then growth and expansion from there. So where people will start is often find me something practical and pragmatic that I can get moving on, and then the world is my oyster after that. And there's many and very different ways and approaches that people can take, but most sites have strong similarities. People have been building warehouses in the same way for 50 years.
Long time.
And having this technology, be it our technology or be it some other types of technology, some of the companies that we mentioned earlier, that is different. It's either it may require more floor space than you currently allocate for something. It may require less than you require for something. So a lot of that overall building design, I think, there's a strong chance of that evolving in the coming years. But customers need to gain the confidence to make those changes. So what are the ways that they are comfortable starting now that gives them that confidence that they can start evolving their operations moving forward? So having that immediate goal as well as a long-term vision that can adjust as everyone gets more information. And we've worked through that process with a number of people to date, and it's, broadly speaking, been pretty successful.
Okay, interesting. So I'm curious, actually, what is, so like you said, warehouses have been very similar for a long time, right? And now they're kind of changing, and all this technology is coming in. So what about like that floor level worker? What has been maybe, I guess, the reaction when these robots start to come in? Is there like maybe a negative reaction, or is there some distraction or anything like that, or is it like a receptive thing? Because a lot of them probably have not worked alongside robots before, and maybe you're not so familiar with the technology that's out there. So, so how has that kind of been, and kind of that from the change management perspective, how has that been received by like those floor level workers?
I would say for the most part, pretty well. And to be honest, I've even been a little bit surprised by that, given the stories, the wider media stories on this topic. But the most important thing we see is the communication around this. That if people know what to expect before something comes in, everything gets a lot easier. We have actually had one or two sites where there wasn't great communication in advance. And that certainly impacted the perception and equally the support that we would have gotten. But for the most part, I think once people see the changes and how things work, they're excited. It's new technology. It is exciting technology.
It's cool.
And it is cool. But it's also, in the grand scheme of things, robots still aren't that smart. People are so much smarter than robots. So the expectation, oh God, what could this do? This is going to come in and do everything. They can't. There's still a pretty, in the grand scheme of things, a pretty narrow range of capabilities for all of the platforms. And it is the dull, dirty, and dangerous, and all of the various the phrases we all like to throw out as part of these conversations. But that's the tasks that robots are doing. And so most people, the feedback actually has been pretty positive, and it is exciting to have something different in the workplace. So again, I go back to once there's a fairly clear line of communication as to what this robot is going to be doing and the impact that it's going to have, if people understand that in advance or as quickly as possible, that tends to smooth the adoption process.
Okay, great. That's great to know, because I think that, and I think to your point about doing the dull, dirty, and dangerous and mundane task, I think, Josh, you touched on that earlier too. But, I would imagine some people are like, oh, I don't have to do that repetitive task that I don't like to do anymore. That's awesome, right? And I think there's some thought out there too, and I'm curious what you guys think about this in terms of how robotics are coming in and doing those types of tasks, and now employees, I guess, skill levels or their job is kind of elevating a bit more to like a more, I wouldn't say analytical, but more of like a higher level skill-based job. Are you seeing that from your customers?
Yeah, I mean, I think that like there are certain customers who are taking the technology and saying, well, we're not just replacing a human with it, we're going to change our processes.
Okay.
And the technology actually allows our people to be a lot more productive and a lot more thinking about how do I use this technology to be able to get the stuff that I need to get done faster, better kind of thing. And it's not just the manager who's thinking about that. The people who are, like you said, the floor level people are thinking about that too and being like, oh, wow, if I really can take advantage of this, my job's going to be a lot easier and I can do more.
Yeah.
So there's that aspect of it, and there's the aspect of people kind of being, hey, I want to be involved with this because this is where things are going, and if I can get into and understand this technology, I can be better suited to be in this world later on as well.
Yeah, in the future, definitely, So in terms of, I guess, employees and potentially creating new jobs with robotics, when someone brings these machines in, like what level of, I guess, maintenance or tech support are they looking at? I think you guys provide tech support, right? But what about from like a maintenance standpoint?
So it is, like I said, an OEM platform. So a lot of them have service people to manage the trucks. Like if the tire's wearing out and so forth,
like the same.
They can do those same type of repairs. The technology that we're adding on, we are adding it on in a way that's very modular and easy for repairs as well. So it's not like, oh, well, this failed and you have to come in and you have to dig into what it is. It's like, okay, we'll just replace this part with another part. So part of our design was thinking about how do we make this serviceable by the techs that they have on site as well.
Okay.
And then we basically send that part back. We'll figure out what's going on with it, fix it, and kind of get that ready to go back out again. So we kind of took that into account of, well, we don't have to make them experts at solving the problems with the robotics technology. Yeah. They just need to be skilled at how do you take this mechanical part off and put another one back in and plug the things back in, and it's ready to go again.
Okay, it's good to know. Yeah, so because I was curious, like, now I'm going to bring robots in. Do I need to hire like a team of robot engineers or something to take care of my fleet? But it sounds like you guys have that pretty covered and pretty simplified.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it goes back to the pragmatic approach that we took earlier, and our first group of employees way back in the day, building this technology from the ground up, they all needed to be, absolute experts. Robotics PhDs and all this, but we're not going to have. It's not practical to have robotics PhDs in every site that we deploy in.
Yeah.
So one of the core focuses we've had over the last year or two is how to scale and how to give our customers that confidence. And so that was part of that reason. When the units are on the ground, if you have technically capable people, the units can be easily serviced.
Okay.
Anything more complex, we're able to take back to base and have experts work on it. But it's not practical to expect that everyone has that level of expertise. It's certainly going to slow a lot of expansion plans if everybody needed to go through a 4-year MIT degree.
Yes.
And I would hope I don't have to go through a 4-year MIT degree because that would not be a good idea.
All right, great. So now what about from an implementation standpoint? If somebody says, okay, I want to bring Vecna Robotics, bring a fleet in, what does that look like and how long does that take and how does it work?
So right now, we provide a deployment team to deploy the technology.
Okay.
But our future goal is that this is something where it can you order it, we ship it out to you, and you guys can do it yourselves.
Okay.
And some of the technology that we're working on is moving in that direction.
Yeah.
But I think that we're probably one of the fastest deployment technologies for this type of technology.
All
right. We stood up a warehouse that was 1.5 million square feet in about 2 to 3 weeks.
Oh, wow.
And that's, part of how we designed our technology, right? We didn't design it has to be absolutely perfect before we turn it on because we're going to walk away and that's the state it's going to be in.
Okay.
We're able to, iteratively deploy the system and solution and learn from how it's doing and make tweaks because our technology was built to constantly improve and get better over time.
Okay.
So our deployment team is able to go in, map the facility, do our what we call site configuration, which is teaching the system how do you go from point A to point B in the world.
Navigate,
and that's done at a global level, so that if we bring in one robot today and bring 10 robots tomorrow, those 10 know exactly what to do. We don't have to teach them again.
Got it.
And so basically it allows that deployment to kind of move smoothly through and get it out to the customer quickly. And there's some, I would say, pre-steps of before we even bring the robots on site of making sure we know the workflow that the customer wants, making sure we understand what everything's going to be so that can be quick.
Okay. All right. And so do you see more customers wanting to bring it into new sites or existing sites? And what's the difference between implementing in a new site? I would imagine a new site is a little easier. Or an existing site, or is there a difference?
For our technology, we designed it to be able to go into existing sites. So we didn't want to have to say, hey, these are changes that you have to make to your facility to allow our system to work better.
Okay.
We said, hey, we're going to try to make it as infrastructure free as possible and go into a building that was built in the 80s or another one that's being built today.
Yeah.
And so I'd say that it's less about the facility and how it is versus how do they want to use it and what do they need to do? What parts of the world does it need to go into?
Okay.
So areas that are more structured, the system can go in without any changes to the world. If there's a lot of dynamic stuff going on, there's certain parts of what we call our localization stack. How do we know where we are in the world that we might add into that part of the world to help it kind of keep track as it's going through this very dynamic space? But we learn that really quickly when we go on site and do a site assessment, and it's more about like David said, how do they run the facility today, and less about was this a brand new facility versus a facility of 10 years ago or something like that.
Okay, all right, that's definitely great to know. And so what about the future of Vecna? What does the future look like?
The future is currently looking very bright.
That's good.
We've come into a new space.
Yeah.
And that
the space is bright.
The space is certainly bright, yes. We have lots of lights, lots of green, lots of orange. As somebody pointed out to me, we have our colours are actually the Irish flag. So I don't know if that was
a nod to you. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe it was. But we are expanding rapidly with a lot of our larger customers. Some of the work we've mentioned earlier in the conversation about putting the building blocks in place for us to scale. Around support in terms of the manufacturing end, we've recently announced a partnership with Unicarriers, who are one of the largest OEM providers in the material handling space. And that is going to allow us to be able to meet the scale that our customers are looking for. To date, we've been doing a lot of the assembly in-house, and we're pretty much up against our own internal capacity at this point. So being able to push out a lot of that manufacturing via our partner helps us hit a lot of that scale. We have a number of platforms that are in development. We're actively working on things with some of our existing customers to expand the use cases we can tackle. And then that obviously opens up further market opportunities for us. So we're currently in a very good position in terms of meeting the opportunities that we see and growing into them. And we see a lot of opportunity. So it's a good time for the robotics industry as a whole. It's a good time for us.
All right, awesome.
And from a technical standpoint, we designed our company to be able to be flexible and to be able to constantly innovate. So we basically have like three kind of core aspects of the type of work that we do. So we have the technology that's kind of meeting our customer needs today and working towards advancing that and adding capabilities to those types of platforms. We also have a team of people working on new product development. So products that we aren't offering today but we'll be starting to offer in a year or 2 years kind of thing. So looking at the technology we have and how do we make it meet a different need. And then we have our innovation team, which is constantly working towards thinking about, where do we need to be 5 years from now?
Yeah.
What does the technology need to be there? And that comes from our roots of being an R&D team to start off with. Is we as we grew, we said, we can't stop innovating. We can't become a team that's, hey, we have this product and everyone uses this product, and then in 5 years, someone else is doing it better than us. So we're constantly working to make sure that we're making it better and better, and in a way that isn't oh, well, you have to buy our product that we're going to have in 2 years. It's no, the product that you bought today is going to be better next year. It's going to be better the year after that.
Got it.
So we're looking to and designing it in a way that we can constantly push those changes out to the existing technology that we have out in the field.
Okay, great. So now how can people find out more about Vecna?
Well, they can find us at our website, vecnarobotics.com. And they can find all of us on LinkedIn if they want to contact us directly.
Oh yeah.
So I'm David Clear, and he's Josh Ornstein. But we certainly try not to hide. So we're out and about in the world. We're attending various trade shows. We're very, very publicly accessible, and always looking to find more places that we can deploy some robots.
Okay, awesome. Josh, David, thanks so much for coming on the New Warehouse podcast, and I'll post more information about that at thenewwarehouse.com.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the New Warehouse Podcast with Kevin Lawton. Subscribe and check us out online at thenewwarehouse.com.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you want more content from the New Warehouse, check out our new video series called All Hands on LinkedIn. Just search for the New Warehouse on LinkedIn and follow along.